I think Democrats are learning, and I'm going to agree with you that Democrats cannot only be the party of resistance. We cannot, like, we resisted so hard between 2017 and 2024. We impeached the guy, like, we prosecuted him, convicted him of 34 felony counts, and guess what? He still got elected. So I don't know how much harder we can resist right now.
Are you admitting that, that the case against Trump in New York was part of the organized Democratic Party resistance?
It was a Democratic prosecutor, and at the time, I said I thought it was unwise.
Shut up.
So the Democrats finally admit, yeah, we used lawfare to go after Donald Trump. Shazam, like we didn't actually know that already. Hi, I'm Pastor Marty, and this is the Afternoon Drive. Please make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Once you are, smack the bell, click the word all. That will give you notification of my rants, my ravings, my undeniably flawless reasonings. Please like and share this video. It's the only way that we get the word out that we're here. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of the Afternoon Drive. For those of you that might be wondering, is this guy really a pastor? Why don't you come pay us a visit the next time you're in Macon, Georgia? I'd love to see you. I'll save you a seat. So last weekend we had this No Kings protest, which was really more like a rally, and in some places turned out basically to be a parade. You know, goofwads dressed up like Pokemon characters protesting that Orange Man bad, Orange Man in the White House, Orange Man violating the Constitution. Yeah, okay. They never offer any actual evidence or proof of this other than their own complaints that he shouldn't be allowed to do this and he shouldn't be allowed to do that. They have used every federal judge that they could get their hands on to try to stop what he's doing with ICE and the deployment of the National Guard, and judge after judge after judge that has tried that has then been reversed, and eventually this is going to get all the way to the Supreme Court, who are going to tell all these federal judges, you, in your little district in California, don't get to tell the President of the United States what he gets to do on behalf of the nation. That's where this is all headed. We know that, and Trump keeps scoring up these victories. So where is he violating the law? And then, of course, they love to say things like, you know, he was convicted on 34 felony accounts. Yeah. Let's think about that for just a moment. The 34 felony accounts that have to do with a real estate transaction and have to do with how he notated into his ledger how a payment was taken care of, and that each time that it was written in there, it was written in there as an undisclosed campaign. In other words, it was lawfare they created out of thin air, trying to make the president look bad. Everything from staging the raid on Mar-a-Lago to make it look like he had done something nefarious, despite the fact that Joe Biden had unclassified documents in his garage, and he had no authorization to take any classified documents because he had not yet been the President of the United States. The President of the United States, on the other hand, can take anything he wants, and he can declassify it, and he can classify anything he wants. If he wants to make the menu to the Chinese takeout place down the street from the White House that he likes to order from and have, you know, delivered to the White House, if he wants to make that menu classified information, he can. He's the president. He has that blanket authority. So the whole raiding Mar-a-Lago to reclaim classified documents he didn't have a right to, he's the president. He had the right to all of it, period. And he could declassify any of it anytime he so chose. So we knew that there was lawfare going after Donald Trump. That lion gold digging, he raped me in Nordstrom's. Yeah, okay. You know, she got that from an episode of Law and Order. Couldn't remember the date, couldn't remember when it happened. There are supposedly pictures of her within the Trump orbit, you know, when he was still in the social scene of New York City years after this so-called rape, where she's standing there smiling with Donald Trump and his wife and the family at the time. And it's not something that usually a rape victim does, is then afterwards pose with the person that supposedly did all this. But you know what this was? And the state of New York rewrote the law regarding the statute of limitations, which had run out on this thing since it supposedly happened back in the 90s, and here we were 30 years later. So they rewrote it just for her, just for this, so they could have this court case during the election cycle. They wanted to bog Donald Trump down in court every day with something so that he couldn't campaign. It was pure lawfare. They put his attorneys in jail. They put Rudy Giuliani in jail. They put the attorneys in jail that were trying to represent him regarding the voter fraud. Oh, I know. We can't talk about that. After all, why the courts already decided on this, there was no fraud. No, what the courts did was they punted. Each court refused to hear the case, citing that Trump had no standing, despite the fact it was actually done to him. And a particular voting machine that was front and center of all of this. And some of Trump's own attorneys went to jail over defaming said company. Tucker Carlson supposedly cost Fox News millions of dollars for defaming said company, because that can't happen in America. Really? Because on an episode of Ozark, you know, on HBO, not exactly Trump-friendly territory, they did an episode on this.
My grandson developed a computer system more accurate and versatile than anything to date. And as part of this other investigation, one of the engineers might have been considering telling details about the technology.
What does this technology do?
It can't be audited by any outside agencies, even when it appears transparent. But the point being, you two did a great job for my family. Thank you, Jen. Wendy Bird.
Those machines can suppress votes.
Yep.
Jesus. They can throw elections.
And prior to the 2020 election, there were congressmen on both sides of the aisle from both parties warning about said voting machine, that they could be flipped and manipulated, etc., etc., etc. But once 2020 got here, none of that mattered. All that mattered was get rid of Orange Man and create a Fedsurrection. That all said, finally, a Democrat admits that they use lawfare to go after Donald Trump. This after all of these people are yelling and screaming how Donald Trump is creating lawfare to go after people like James Comey, who put out a picture of 8647. That's a death threat on the President of the United States. John Bolton, nobody seems to be all that worried about John Bolton. Letitia James, she accused Donald Trump of real estate crimes, which are not crimes. Yes, he assessed his real estate value at one thing to try to borrow money against it. The banks come in, they do their own survey, their own assessment of the situation, say, no, we don't think it's worth this, we think it's worth this, so we'll loan you this. And Donald Trump said, okay. He paid it back, everybody got paid back, no crime, no victims here, nobody lost money, but yet he got indicted over it. And Letitia James actually has bought properties, lied and said they were her primary residence, purposely lying to gain for herself a lower interest rate. She's actually committed felonies. So we'll see how that all plays out. But the one that finally nails this all down for Democrats, on behalf of Democrats, is a former Democrat himself, Jimmy Dore.
You know how I've told you that they're making a big deal out of Trump prosecuting James Comey and going after Letitia James in the exact same way Letitia James went after Donald Trump over bank loans, the exact same thing, and she's guilty. Trump isn't. Trump was doing regular real estate. So we know we've told you that all those the part of the plan of the Democratic Party, really the establishment, was to try to make it so Trump couldn't be president again. And that's why they did the Fedsurrection on January 6th. And that's what they tried to get him to commit a felony, which he didn't. That's why they didn't prosecute Donald Trump for January 6th, but they prosecuted him for every other thing. And it was to try to get him to not be able to be on the ballot in 2024. That's what this was all about. And this was called lawfare, weaponizing the Justice Department to go after their political enemies, which is what they did, which is why the FBI staged a crime scene at Mar-a-Lago when they went in and went through Donald Trump's home, right? Joe Biden had classified documents in his garage at the exact same time, and nobody raided his house and nobody prosecuted him. But the FBI did raid Mar-a-Lago and stage a crime scene. Also, so they put in jail all of Donald Trump's lawyers, his political advisors, his campaign manager. They put them all in jail. And now Donald Trump is going after those criminals, and they're saying, "Oh my God, criminal prosecution! Oh, political prosecutions!" Well, here is a Democrat operative admitting that all these prosecutions against Donald Trump were lawfare. In fact, it was part of their way to resist Donald Trump. You think I'm kidding? Let's watch.
One of Pete's longtime advisors, Liz Smith, seemed to let the cat out of the bag this week, telling CNN all those felony convictions against the president were not a real case, just part of a planned Democrat Party resistance.
Why the base is mad at some of the leaders in Washington is not because they're not left enough. It's because, Chuck Schumer came out with no strategy, no forewarning, and just said, we're going to fold on the CR. I mean, I think he could have done a better job of explaining what the strategy was and what we're going to do, but there wasn't anything like that. I think Democrats are learning, and I'm going to agree with you that Democrats cannot only be the party of resistance. We cannot, we resisted so hard between 2017 and 2024. We impeached the guy, we prosecuted him, convicted him of 34 felony counts, and guess what? He still got elected. So I don't know how much harder we can resist right now.
Are you admitting that, that the case against Trump in New York was part of the organized Democratic Party resistance?
It was a Democratic prosecutor, and at the time, I said I thought it was unwise. I went on Fox News and said
there were Democrats who said this at the time.
There were a lot.
Just to be clear, everybody who now touts the 34 felonies, take it from Liz. This was not a real case. This was a plot to upend the presidential campaign, which
I just think it was a boneheaded move by Alvin Bragg.
Spinning, in some ways, the liberal lawfare never ended, with Comey still showing symptoms of Trump derangement syndrome. Here he is on Instagram, that 8647. And you can see Christine Holmes investigating, saying basically he called for the assassination of President Trump. DHS and Secret Service is all over this. Comey then deleted his entire Instagram account after apologizing and saying it was all a mistake. He assumed it was just a political message, not any effort at promoting violence. Give me a break. He's the former FBI chief. He knows the law.
So there is a high Democratic operative admitting on CNN panel that everything we did, from impeaching him twice to all the lawfare cases, those were all just the way we were going to resist Donald Trump. It wasn't. She knew it was stupid. Andrew Cuomo said that the case against Donald Trump was ridiculous and should have never been brought. Now we have a Democratic operative on CNN panel admitting. But was he actually convicted on 34 felonies? Is being an adjudicated rapist a felony? Hold on, I'm getting a message from the booth. No, it actually means nothing in any sense, legal or otherwise. It was just a buzz phrase for morons, and the DNC is completely worthless. Okay.
Boom.